Kevin Bowen here. Don't forget to listen to The Fan now on 93.5 or 107.5 FM. And check out our latest coverage online at 1075thefan.com.
Komoko Toure, second-year player out of Rutgers, gets the first sack of the game for the Colts. That's third down. Now it's fourth down for the Browns. 4th and 25, and they'll punt it away. Ball in the near hash. 3 receivers go left side. Mack out of the backfield to the right side. Brissett throws, fires upfield in the back of the end zone. It's a fingertip grab for a touchdown. Eric Ebron, yes sir. 12-yard pass, Jacoby Brissett to Eric Ebron, and the Colts are an extra point away from tying the game.
2 games down, 2 games to go in the 2019 preseason for the Indianapolis Colts. We are less than 2 weeks away from roster cuts. We are less than 3 weeks away from the start of the regular season. Joey Molinaro, those things make me happy.
Same, brother. On top of I'm going to my bachelor party this weekend.
Wow.
So a little caveat, yeah, I'll be out there. But no, football is here. Colts football's back, and I'm pumped.
Bachelor party, Chicago, right?
That's right. Yep.
Cubs game?
Rooftop. Mm-hmm.
God,
So if anybody's going to Chicago this weekend, hit me up.
Buy my man a drink or two. That is quite the bachelor party. I did Cincinnati. Reds game, similar sort of setup. So cannot beat that. I like the within the driving radius of Indianapolis. Sure. So
any pointers?
I'd pray. I'd pray.
A couple rosaries, or
yeah, for sure. If I'm not mistaken, you're taking Monday off, which I think is one of your smarter moves.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll have to check.
Yeah, I think that's one of your wiser moves that you can make. But in all seriousness, enjoy it. I mean, it's, probably my favorite weekend outside of my wedding ever. I don't know. It's just all your friends and your people in one spot.
For sure.
No regard for human life, really, to be honest with you.
Yeah, no doubt, man.
But yeah, let's everyone pray for Joey this week, and probably a lot of Colts players praying for themselves over the next couple weeks as well. Today's podcast will recap, as you heard, the highlights out of the gate. Browns and Colts 21-18 winners were the Cleveland Browns. Who gives a shit about the final score? But we'll break down what we saw in that game, maybe what we saw before that game on the field at Lucas Oil Stadium. Training camp is over, so I want to I posted something on 1075thefan.com, 16 thoughts after 16 practices at Grand Park. Very easy. Anything that stands out to you, Joey, or me, let's get into that a little bit later.
Yep.
Because now the Colts are on a regular season schedule. I feel like maybe that's something that fans don't really realize. They go really hard, 16 practices in about a 3-week period. You only have 5 practices now until the regular season. 5 practices in 2 weeks. They'll go into regular season schedule mode this week, practicing Tuesday through Thursday ahead of Saturday's preseason night game against the Bears. And then next week, they'll practice Monday, Tuesday. You go to Cincinnati to play the preseason finale Thursday. Roster cuts happen Saturday. And boom, Labor Day Monday. You get back in the building and you have a practice and you get ready to play the Chargers 6 days later.
You laid it out perfectly, man. And a couple weeks from now, we got something coming up as well.
Boom. Beers and Bourbon with Bowen is going to be Wednesday, August 28th, and that will be at 6:30, and our location has been decided. Thankfully to Joey for not letting me get the cat out of the bag on last week's podcast. I might have said the wrong place, but we'll still be in the downtown area. St. Joseph Brewing is where we are going to be. Brewery, I think, is actually the exact name for that place. That is where we will be from 6:30 to 7:30, 8-ish. We'll hang around, have a beer or two afterwards. We will be there again. That is next Wednesday night. For those of you that didn't make it out to our first one, this is a free event. Free to get in. Don't need a ticket. JMV actually will be broadcasting live from there until 6 o'clock before we get up there around 6:30. Potential to give away some good prizes.
I think that's fair to say.
Okay. Yeah. Good. Very good prizes.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. So yeah, we'll be out there. It is at Michigan and College, or I guess more
540 North College Avenue.
Yeah, just north of Michigan and College. It's in the Lockerbie area downtown. Easy access right off the highway there, and hopefully with a 6:30 start. If you work outside of the downtown area, you'll have plenty of time to get down there and come out early, have a beer while JMV is broadcasting, and then we'll be on at 6:30.
Yes, sir. Be talking all Colts, and not to make this a meek podcast, but it is on my birthday. So come on out.
Boom.
I need you out there for my birthday, and we'll have a little fun.
Bachelor party into birthday.
Yeah,
That's a hell of a week.
Pretty big week to, a couple months here for me.
Yeah.
But let's get into what everybody wants to hear about, and that is really the video that we saw before the game even got started on Saturday against the Browns. Dan Graziano from ESPN posting Andrew Luck doing a little bit of lateral movement, Kevin.
Yeah, I would say some rather intense lateral movement, side-to-side movement, jumping over bags isn't the right word, but whatever plastic sort of things on the field. And it was funny, when I watch Andrew Luck do that stuff, I was first obviously very impressed that he was doing that. And then you watch Jacoby Brissett play quarterback a few hours later. How many times did Jacoby Brissett have to do some of those moves to avoid rushers? I mean, Jacoby Brissett, I thought, kept several plays alive. We'll get into that a little bit later, but it was kind of funny being like, well, that's a really critical element to playing quarterback in the NFL, and Andrew Luck was doing that before the game. So I think the physical activity itself, Joey, the fact that Luck was doing that is a great, great sign. That was a big hurdle. That is still a big hurdle that Chris Ballard has mentioned of something that Luck has got to get through. There is pain when he moves side to side. There's maybe a restricted element to his movement ability when he does the lateral stuff. And that's to be expected with any lower leg, lower body injury. So him doing that 3 weeks outside of the regular season opener, I took that as a really good sign. And, because we always read everything into the Andrew Luck situation probably a little bit more than we should, I actually do think the fact that he was doing it in such a public setting is noteworthy. Like, Andrew Luck is an extremely private human being, extremely private with his injury situation. He's not an idiot. This game was on NFL Network. The Cleveland Browns are inside of Lucas Oil Stadium. If not for anything, people are going to be inside that stadium, camera people, NFL Network, ESPN, all those people. They're going to be in there to watch Baker Mayfield warm up before the game starts, thinking that he might not play. And then all of a sudden they look on the other side of the practice field. There's Andrew Luck working with Marcus Brady, the quarterback's coach. So the fact that he was so comfortable doing that in such a public setting where things are going to go viral with a snap of a finger, which it did, I don't know. I think that's a good sign. Maybe am I reading too much into it?
I think that you're spot on. I didn't even think about it until you brought it up on Jersey Johnny yesterday. I think it's a really good point.
It's something, too, as well, and I don't want this to make it seem like Andrew Luck needs to show Kevin Bowen anything, but selfishly, I needed to see some evidence of Andrew Luck moving.
Right.
Because, as I just mentioned, training camp is over. When I go out there to West 56 tomorrow, we're taping this Monday morning, when I go out there for practice on Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday, it's like a regular season media availability. You watch the first 20, maybe 30 minutes. You see some individual drills. That's the extent of it. And then you go inside. So, which I hate, we're at the mercy of the Colts for the next 2.5, 3 weeks and them telling us what Andrew Luck is actually doing. We don't get to watch the full practice anymore. So I need to see some evidence, and I know I'm not going to see any for the next 3 weeks. That is a little snippet. It's 10 seconds. I'm not going to be like, Andrew Luck is going to win the MVP after seeing that video. But on last Thursday's podcast, which was heavy Andrew Luck-centric, and we'll move on from Luck after this, I said 51% chance he starts a regular season opener. My gut just felt like he would play through some pain tolerance, pain threshold. After seeing that video, I'm probably into the 60s. And Frank Reich had a conference call with us on Sunday and would not commit to Andrew Luck returning to practice on Tuesday, and did mention that there is a pain threshold element that Andrew Luck has got to get through, and there's still a bit of a strengthening element that he has to get through as well in that area. But the movement that I saw in that video, I can't imagine how you're a Colts fan, you walk away from that thinking it wasn't a positive development, you know?
Absolutely.
And I got to mention this, Joey. So I had a former, I guess I can say all this. I had a former coworker of mine who no longer works for the Indianapolis Colts, but is still a big fan of the Colts, direct messaged me with the thinking, and I'll throw in the caveat, after a few cocktails, this person admitted to me that they were curious if Andrew Luck's injury situation was due to the fact that because he wants to go play in the XFL with his dad.
I don't know if this sound the fire alarms. I don't know if this building is ready for that kind of heat of
on a Monday morning.
Take on a Monday morning.
That is the sizzling. You've left the bacon on the burner for 5 hours. Your house is smoking like none other. Sizzling hot take.
You know that meme that goes around of the headphone that's exploded, and it's like, what song were they playing?
Right.
They're listening to this show and they're hearing that take.
Unbelievable when I saw it. This person could not be a very loyal follower and just one of the nicest people out there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, I want to be like, what? But I don't want to just come off like that. Stop.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. So as if we needed any more on I feel like I had to mention that just for fans that think they're on the ledge. I don't think anyone is on that ledge.
I need to collect and write a blog of all of the craziest conspiracies and probably make up a few of our own about Andrew Luck, because there's been some wild ones out there, man.
Wild ones.
All right, so let's get into the game. What went down on the field after that video went out pregame. And let's start with the offensive takeaways for the Colts against the Browns.
Yeah, I thought better from Jacoby Brissett, and I thought that was needed. His offensive line in the run game did not help him out at all. And that third series, Jacoby Brissett's ability to keep plays alive and his ball placement was on point. There was a third down throw that was incomplete to Zach Pascal. I think it was the second series of the game where Jacoby Brissett kind of had to fit it into a window. And he overshot Pascal just by a hair. And as the punt team comes on, I just, sat there in my press box seat and was like, that's the difference between Andrew Luck and Jacoby Brissett. Luck makes that throw. That's why Andrew Luck is Andrew Luck, and that's why, in my opinion, Jacoby Brissett is not a top 20 quarterback in the NFL. But I thought Brissett going out there for that third series probably was going to be his final work of the night. He goes 6 of 6. In rhythm, decisive, things that you need to see out of him. I thought that was a big, big confidence boost for him. Now, starting offense-wise, just a horrific outing in the run game. Continues to be a big issue for this team. Yes, Quentin Nelson wasn't playing, but you had a lot of key run components in there. You had Ryan Kelly, you had Anthony Costanzo, you had Marlon Mack, you had Jack Doyle, and you go 6 carries for 10 yards. And Marlon Mack had a long of 8, where it should have been a tackle for loss for about 4. I mean, Mack had a defender in his face before the line of scrimmage seemingly on every run. Just no semblance of holes or lanes or just get your rhythm going as a runner. Right when he got that ball from Jacoby Brissett, he was getting stoned. And going back and watching it, Josh Andrews was awful starting for Quentin Nelson. So that should give some fans, I think, a little bit of comfort. But at the same time, there were just misidentifications. Mark Lewinsky maybe wasn't his best either. There was struggles in the run game from people outside of just Josh Andrews. And we can't act like this offensive line is just going to have 16 games of continuity. Anthony Costanzo missed 5 last year. Ryan Kelly missed 4. Like, you're going to have attrition. That's inevitable. Well, Josh Andrews is your top interior backup. And if he looks like what we saw on Saturday, that's going to be a major issue for this team. I think Frank Reich has put it very well. Schematically, yes, the Colts are pretty vanilla in the preseason. But when it comes to the run game, there's only so much you can do.
Yeah, it's kind of like line up and beat your guy.
There's a lot of one-on-one elements to it, and the Colts are just getting whipped right now. And there's some misidentification stuff, which to me, that is a concern of like, okay, do we see the Howard Mudd, Chris Strauser new philosophical differences? How different is that than Goosh? Is it taking this group a little bit longer to get used to that? And I think I mentioned on Thursday's podcast, Rick Venturi's been very vocal to me at practice, just saying, like, this unit misses Goosh. They miss a guy that kind of kicks him in the ass on a day-in, day-out basis. So I think it's something worth monitoring. And we saw some struggles in pass protection with the Browns joint practices.
Right.
And Part of that was Ryan Kelly was out of the lineup for a bit, I think, on Wednesday's practice. But also, a huge element of pass protection for the Colts is quarterback and center. They have a huge part of making sure the pre-snap things are all the, I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. Well, Jacoby Brissett and Ryan Kelly / Josh Andrews appear to be struggling with that element. Mm-hmm. So I think that's something to watch going forward. I thought Devin Funchess, that they're getting him in space with those crossers, I think will help out his confidence. I thought Deion Kane was outstanding, Joey. One drop, but several catches just out of a normal catch radius, starting to get more of those first-team reps, which I think is much deserved. And we've seen that a little bit lately in practice as well, of a guy that's like, all right, I think if you're going to go play week 1 against the Chargers, to me, he's probably your 4th wideout right now, depending on Paris Campbell's health. So I think he would rotate into the game for sure. So, yeah, anything else on the offense side of the ball stand out to you?
Got Brissett, got the O-line, Kane.
Good for Ross Travis late in the game, getting in the end zone.
Right. What about even Philip Walker, Chad Kelly, that situation?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I thought better from Philip Walker. Chad Kelly still did his thing, which it's so impressive what Chad Kelly's doing in the fourth quarter of preseason games, because those are dumpster fire moments.
Right,
those are Andrew Luck's going to play in the XFL moments. Mm-hmm. It's like, what the hell's going on? To have success in the fourth quarter of an offense, it's so difficult in the preseason. Chad Kelly's come in and delivered. Now, fans, I don't think fans should be freaking out about why isn't Chad Kelly getting more earlier reps in the preseason games. The Colts have to prepare for the worst. And the worst is Andrew Luck not being ready to go week 1, and Jacoby Brissett being your starter, and Philip Walker being your backup. Because Chad Kelly suspended for the first 2 games of the season.
Yeah.
So theoretically, we won't know if Chad Kelly's beat out Philip Walker officially until week 3 of the regular season. We just won't. So
got a ways.
The Colts cannot put Chad Kelly in there much earlier in the games because they need to prepare Philip Walker worst case scenario. So I think that's why you're seeing Walker play earlier, play a little bit more than Kelly. And, I just posted a 53-man roster prediction on 1075thefan.com, and I only keep 2 quarterbacks with the caveat that I think you can get Philip Walker to your practice squad, and then you promote him late in that week against the Chargers. And if you need a third quarterback, you have one. If not, you leave him on your practice squad. I think that's the approach that you take right now at quarterback. I cannot imagine Philip Walker getting claimed somewhere else. And I like to think if that were to happen, the Colts would just be like, dude, here's a ton of money to play on the practice squad. Just please stay here for a couple weeks.
Tough to turn down money. Yeah.
Amen to that.
I love it. All right. Defensive takeaways. Saw Darius Leonard make his preseason debut. What do we think on that side of the ball?
Yeah, I would say the defense was okay. Some fans might say better than okay, but Garrett Gilbert, that was the Browns quarterback. That's their third-string quarterback.
Yeah.
No Nick Chubb. The Colts sat T.Y. Hilton, and that was really it on the offensive skill. All the other main skill guys played. The Browns sat Nick Chubb, David Njoku, Jarvis Landry, Odell Beckham. They got a third-string quarterback, and for the most part, they were able to move it. More so, I would say, on that third drive. The first couple drives, maybe they only got 1 first down or 2. But I just would have liked to see a little bit more dominance out of the defense, considering they pretty much played at all of their important people in that game, which is a far cry from what the Browns did offensively. I liked a rush from Justin Houston. Pierre Desir made a nice play on a third down to get off the field. Rock Yassin was starting in the nickel group, and I think that's important to note. Yes, the pass interference penalty he had, but I thought he had really good coverage on the play. It's just something you got to learn in the NFL. You got to whip that head around. You just face guarding, you can get away with on Saturdays. You can't get away with it on Sundays.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not a church reference or anything like that. That's just...
To be fair, it was on Saturday. So, he's still...
You're right.
He's in that same sort of cycle.
You're right, man. That was good.
Week 1.
So we could see it again against the Bears
Very well
this week.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Joey Molinaro tells me to shut up on this Monday morning. But Rock starting is notable. Is that your nickel package week 1? Because he's gonna play a whole lot then.
Mm-hmm.
Quincy Wilson, more in that dime role.
Does that worry you against a guy like Phillip Rivers who might? Hey, I'm gonna go after the rookie.
I think it's something that on the play that he got the penalty on, he was isolated in man coverage on his own island. Yeah, I think I would want to test Rock out more in zone. I think he can hold his own for the most part. It's the zone of all right, does he know his exact responsibilities? Can we scheme up some things that, make him want to bait to this part of the zone, and then all of a sudden we have a soft spot and he's a little open there. So, yeah, I think it's definitely something that you worry about for sure. I thought Kamoko Turry and Ben Banigou had some good moments. Turry, Joey, he's been a guy that we've debated a lot in this podcast. He is the best speed rusher on this team coming off the edge.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, without a doubt. And on the sack, yeah, he probably got helped out from a very aggressive chip. I don't know if it was Kareem Hunt or who it was, but pretty much chipped Turry into the inside and freed him up for the sack. Turry had a couple stops in the run game, which was good to see. But, man, there were a couple times, Joey, where Cleveland ran right at him. And that dude, he just gets sucked out of the run play so quick.
Those cutbacks.
Yeah.
Crazy.
I just don't know if it's discipline or what, but he gets washed away big time. I mean, go back and watch Cleveland's first 2 kind of chunkish runs. I would say each were at least probably 8 to 10 yards. Yep. They're right at Turray. And that's why he's not going to be a 3-down guy for you on a consistent basis here in 2019. And really, you don't need him to be. But moving forward, you would like him to be able to play on 3 downs with a consistent sort of effort on those rundowns. So that's something to watch. But I think on 3rd down, he's a guy that'll get on the field for you, him and Justin Houston being the 3rd down. And I thought Banigou had some nice rushes, a couple nice plays in the run game as well. And that was so important for him because he has got to show that after really just an underwhelming and a little bit of an injured offseason leading up to this point. And I guess that was really it from the defensive side of the ball. I thought a couple of rookie moments from Bobby Okereke and EJ Speed. Anthony Walker is going to start week 1. I say that with some confidence. And then actually we didn't even see EJ Speed start at the Sam linebacker position. Matthew Adams was out. I assume he got a little banged up. Zaire Franklin actually started over EJ Speed. And then there were a couple times where Speed and Okereke were in there, and they just look like rookies.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, overall I thought defense, mixed bag, maybe a little bit better than just mixed bag when the starters were in there, but the competition level was not Cleveland hype train offense by any means.
You know what I really enjoyed? One last thing from the defense is it didn't really matter because it got negated by pass interference, but Malik Hooker making his way with that range over there to almost intercept that pass.
He covered some ground,
Yeah.
Joey. I'm glad you brought that up because I think Malik Hooker will just inevitably be tested more this year. You're just playing better quarterbacks. I don't really care who the hell the deep safety is. I'm better than you. I'm going to throw this ball down the field. Garrett Gilbert, okay, he probably didn't expect Malik Hooker to get over there that quickly. But Mahomes and Rivers and Roethlisberger, and I mean, those guys are going to challenge Malik Hooker this year. I did find it odd. I tweeted this out yesterday. 4th and 30 punt return. Maybe second quarter, maybe late first quarter, and Malik Hooker and Pierre Desir on the field.
Yeah.
You got 90 guys on your roster. Why is Malik Hooker playing special teams at all? Especially an injury-prone guy?
Don't do that.
Yeah.
No.
29, you go rest on the bench, drink some water. George Odom and,
Chris Milton.
Yeah, you guys go play special teams.
For sure. All right, you have 16 thoughts, takeaways from Colts camp up on 1075thefan.com. And one that really stood out to me, I mean, obviously the Andrew Luck situation is going to be first and foremost there. I don't know if you want to hit on that anymore.
No. Move on.
Okay.
Move on.
The one that stood out to me the most probably was what you had to say about Devin Funchess and the team production that we're still kind of missing to see from him.
Yeah, we just, I have something I think I mentioned before. If you're going to equate a passer rating for Jacoby Brissett to T.Y. Hilton in training camp, it'd be in the hundreds. If you're going to have a passer rating of Jacoby Brissett to Devin Funchess in the preseason, and I should say training camp, not the preseason games, training camp, it would be probably in the 50s. It just hasn't been what you would like to see. And I would say more of the challenged catches, when it's these aren't the simple drags that we're seeing Funchess catch in the regular season or here in the preseason. It's more of you're in man coverage or the zone is collapsing on you and there just hasn't been enough separation, enough balls on target. I would like to see more out of him. So yeah, that was probably, I guess, one of my more negative takeaways, if you want to throw that out there. And we should mention, because we haven't mentioned it yet, Joey, about Reese Fountain. We recorded the Andrew Luck podcast, Centric podcast, last Thursday morning. Fountain got hurt Thursday afternoon. You feel terrible. Absolutely terrible for the guy. It was an audible scream. It reminded me of being in Bankers Life Fieldhouse when Victor Oladipo went down. And for a place, obviously a lot more fans inside of Bankers Life that night than were at Grand Park, but there were still a lot of people very close by Reese Fountain when he went down. And to see the reaction from the other people, to me, is always that's so telling. Yeah. I remember Toronto's trainer when Oladipo went down, he sprinted onto the floor first and immediately put a towel over that right knee of Victor Oladipo. Like, he knew. And when those people know,
not good.
It's not good at all. Not good at all. And the Browns players, their reactions, and so many medical personnel on the field right away, and he gets stretchered off, and you can hear him crying, and just the guy, maybe more so than any other player this camp, had improved his chances of making the team. I think I said it last week. He probably came into camp at like a 10% chance of making the team, and right before he got hurt, he was getting some starting run that day in practice. I still think he was a hair on the outside looking in to make the team, but he was doing everything he could to make this team. And Frank Reich had a conference call with the media yesterday and confirmed it was a fractured and dislocated ankle for him, which I'm not sure. Was that the Gordon Hayward injury?
Yeah, very, very similar.
Okay. And then, obviously, Reese Fountain will go on injured reserve, and the Colts do expect a full and complete recovery for him. So he hasn't gone on injured reserve yet, but I think that's just a logistical item they will make pretty soon.
On the positive side of injuries, the 2017 draft class had a very, very healthy training camp.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. So 16 training camp practices, only 4 starters, and I guess now we might have to take Quincy Wilson out of the starter category. But in camp, 4 starters participated every single day. The offensive guys, Mark Glowinski and Marlon Mack. That, to me, is very notable. Marlon Mack was that healthy. We don't really talk about running backs a lot in training camp. It's just kind of hard to really, truly evaluate them when there aren't many live settings. And then defensively, Malik Hooker and Quincy Wilson, every single day at practice, they were out there starting and participating. So it's huge, man. Those guys are going into critical seasons. And I would say the ceilings for Marlon Mack and Malik Hooker, if they can reach them, that can push this team even higher on that list. So that was notable to me. And unless you have anything else, Joey, that stands out, I just had one more.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Paris Campbell injury situation, you just don't know what that role is going to be like for him in 2019. I mean, he missed 12 straight practices. Him and Andrew Luck both had their different setbacks on the same day. I guess for Campbell, it was a new injury. For Luck, it was a setback. But they've missed 3 weeks now. And I think the role for Paris Campbell week 1 is going to be very Ohio State package-centric. and probably more like an Ohio State sophomore or junior year package for Paris Campbell of, hey, that dude's really fast. He's not a complete receiver yet. Let's get him 3 or 4 touches and let's call it a day. But he's got to get healthy soon because you got to test. I mean, a hamstring with speed, guys, Joey, always worries me. Always worries me. And so that'll be something to keep an eye on here when the Colts get back to practice this week.
All right, you want to hop into some Twitter questions?
Yes.
All right, let's start things off on a Monday with Zach. He wants to know, how does a hybrid gadget guy like Hines, who can line up a running back, slot, returner, affect the 53-man roster? Could he fulfill multiple roles on offense to free up another spot at a place like cornerback or defensive line?
Really good question, Zach. Boy, Nyheim Hines got smoked on that punt return.
Yeah, so he had to get helped off a little bit.
Oh, boy. Yeah, that was like, Jonathan Williams already in the locker room. Now your second running back is getting helped off the field, and Jordan Wilkins is still not returned from a foot injury. That was not good, but it looks like everything is fine on the Nyheim Hines front. They are trying to make him into a returner, Joey, for the exact reason that Zach just mentioned in that question. If Nyheim Hines can become a returner, and I would say more kick than punt, Chester Rogers is still making this team. Because not only will Chester Rogers make the team as a punt returner, Paris Campbell can't stay healthy.
Right.
You need some slot receiver. But if Hines can become a kick returner, does that take Zach Pascal off your 53-man roster? I think that's something to keep in mind. The Colts would really, really like for Hines to be able to do multiple things because, as Zach says, that can open up a roster spot. Does he say corner and wideout? Are those
defensive line?
Corner and defensive, yeah. Those, yeah. Wideout obviously wouldn't. Those are two position groups that I think a Nyheim Hines emergence could help. When the Colts went live with the Browns that first joint practice day, they had a live kick return session. Nyheim Hines was your starter at kick returner.
Yep.
So, that's something to note.
From Brogan, formerly possibly of the Cleveland Browns, Brogan Brobick, or you remember that guy, the star of Hard Knocks last year?
Oh, okay, yeah. I was confused.
Fourth string quarterback.
Yeah.
Possibly, I don't know.
I went to high school with a Brogan, so I was confused for a second where you're going with that. Sorry.
He says, hey, guys, long time, first time here. With the backup O-line being a little sloppy, how much is attributed to the preseason versus Coach Googe leaving, in your opinion? Any concern on your end?
Well, I think it's something to watch moving forward. Yeah, I mean, does this unit need a little bit longer to get on the same page? And, I would say some of my worries in week 1, Joey, with the unit was like Quentin Nelson holding. Braden Smith gets beat by Trent Murphy on a third down. This past week, as I mentioned earlier, I thought Josh Andrews was the main culprit with that starting lineup, but there were still just some misidentifications and things like that. And I'll be interested to see if, Frank Reich has been very guarded and playing starters deep into the preseason. Most week 2 preseason games, you see starters go into the second quarter, maybe midway to that point. You saw some of the Colts starters, especially on defense, exit a little bit earlier. Do you play your starters on the offensive line a little bit longer on Saturday just because you want to get some sort of, against a very good Chicago Bears front? Is that something that you do? But, I would say it just comes down to, winning one-on-one and just making sure that everything is solidified from quarterback to center and everyone is on the same page communication-wise. I think that is a big point that Frank Reich has mentioned. Jacoby Brissett has needed to make strides in handling protection duties. They put a lot of responsibility on their quarterback. So I don't think it's just individually like those guys. I can, if you're going to make me have a pie chart, a little bit of coaching, a little bit of individual play from the starters, a little bit on Jacoby Brissett, a little bit on some of the injuries that have happened in camp as well. So there's a lot of things right now.
From Justin, who's the better option, a healthy Jacoby Brissett or an Andrew Luck that can't roll out of a pocket?
Such a good question. Joey, what would you do week 1? Would you, let's say Andrew Luck can't really scramble, but Jacoby Brissett can be healthy? I think that's a question you have to ask yourself. And the other major question the Colts must ask themselves is, what's the risk of him long-term injury-wise?
That was going to be my thing.
If he plays week 1 and there's a 10% chance he could rip that ankle or whatever you want to call it, then is that too much of a risk for you to put him out there? Like, those are all these questions the Colts have to ask themselves here over the next couple of weeks. So I tend to think I would rather have a more stationary Andrew Luck in there. Jacoby Brissett is not fleet of foot. Yeah, I mean, I think we'd call him deceptively fast. You know? Yeah, I think that's a phrase that we often use to describe quarterbacks that maybe aren't the quickest, but have a 10-yard scramble in their arsenal once every 3 games.
Yep.
I think we saw that.
Which he did, yeah.
Out of Jacoby on Saturday. So, but can Andrew Luck do what Jacoby Brissett did on the 4th down play, where a free rusher's coming right at him, he sidesteps him, throws it to Eric Ebron, and you extend your one positive drive of the night? So that's a really good question. I would tend to think I'd have a stationary Luck, but I don't know. Man, that's good.
Yeah, that's why they get paid the big bucks to make those decisions.
Right.
Me and you just talk. From Billy, of all the young pieces on the offense that have been brought in during the Ballard era, which player, in your opinion, has the highest overall ceiling? I thought with athleticism and the fact that Reich loves tight ends, my vote goes to Mo Alley Cox. Big, thick, tall, strong, and seems to have a great body control along with decent hands. Could get a ton of touches if Ebron isn't a Colt in the future.
Wow, it's a good question. Young offensive pieces, I would say Mo Alley Cox is one of those guys with a high ceiling. I would assume Paris Campbell you would throw into that group as well. I know he was a second-round draft pick, so, maybe his ceiling is already pretty high. But, running back-wise, do you throw Marlon Mack in there? He was a Ballard draft pick.
Young Kane.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about Kane. Kane looks good, man. Kane just looks, it's smooth, it's fluid, it's natural. It's like that dude was born to play receiver, which is kind of funny because he was a high school quarterback.
He'd have been a nasty dual threat.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's one of those things where if Frank Reich says in a team meeting room, all right, where are my high school quarterbacks? That could be our emergency quarterback. Deion Kane's name is, or that hand is.
Yeah.
Woo!
Here's
Coach.
Just run the spread option and
all day long.
We're good.
All day long. But, yeah, Kane might be it, Joey. Campbell still. I'm going to go with Kane.
Okay. Yeah. Book's kind of out on both of them right now, but.
Yeah, there's no clear picture with any of those names I just mentioned. Marlon Mack probably has the clearest picture. But, yeah, I'll go with Kane.
Cody Felger gets his question in this week, and he wants to know who's been your preseason MVP so far.
Swag.
Ah.
I don't know, Cody. 2 games in. Chad Kelly's looked really good. I'm going to go just preseason. I'm not going to go training camp. I'm going to go just the first 2 preseason games. I like what I've seen from Deion Kane, of course. I continue to like what I see from Krishan Hogan. Put him on the practice squad, and I don't want that to be like a slap in the face. Practice squad is still nice money and decent security for you, and you don't have to get hurt.
And one of these injuries happen. If an injury happens, there you go.
Chris Ballard showed it last year. He is a fan of promoting from the practice squad. So, I think Jonathan Williams has showed a couple of things as well. Defensively, I'm going deep into the fourth quarter of what I was watching. I had a tweet about Luke Rhodes in the fourth quarter running down on punt. That's how bored I was. Karan Reed, number 75 defensive tackle, won't make the team, but I thought he's been pretty productive.
From Daryl Smith, outside the early game jitters, your thoughts on Yassine and Tell? Personally, I think they did a great job. Just need to turn their heads around.
Yeah, which I guess you can't call it great because great to me is pretty much flawless. Yeah. And unfortunately, it drew a penalty for Yassine. The Marvell Tell penalty, did he have 2?
The one I saw, I was kind of.
Is that the one he challenged? Yeah, Reich had one where he challenged. But yeah, I would say both of them from a being sticky and coverage standpoint, they both were there, which you like, especially for Tell. He's a guy that's making a position switch and things like that. Check out my 53-man roster that I teased earlier on 1075thefan.com. I probably put Tell on the practice squad for now, but I think that you are seeing some moments out of Tell that you're like, all right, You knew it was going to be developmental. You're seeing some positive developments. Now you just got to fine-tune things.
Drew Masterson asks, do you think Ture's improvement has been just natural progression from year 1 to 2, or did his offseason training with Mathis push him over the edge into what we've seen the last couple of weeks?
Well, I think both, Drew. I mean, the natural progression was needed from a physical standpoint. This is a guy that admits he was like 235 soaking wet late in the season. You can't play defensive end in this system at 235 soaking wet. But when you work with Robert Mathis as much as he has, that's pretty darn good. So, again, I will repeat what I said earlier about Ture. You love what he's seen. I think I just got my wedding ring stuck on my other hand. You love what you see as a speed, pure edge rusher. Like, that's needed in this defense. The Colts lack that right now. And Ture and Banigou, Joey, maybe more so than any other young duo on this team, non-starting duo, I should say. Those two guys can raise the ceiling of this season higher than anybody else on this roster. I firmly believe that. We can talk about Paris Campbell being some great gadget guy and just in a blink of an eye impacting things. If you can get two dominant edge rushers coming off your bench, that is huge.
Dangerous.
Huge.
Yep.
But with Ture, he's got to be better on the rundowns. Don't watch one tackle for loss and think everything's fine and well. Watch where Cleveland got their big runs when he was in the game. It was right at 57.
From Paris Hilton Hype Train, Paris/Hilton Hype Train, not to be confused with, the Paris Hilton.
Sounds like something my podcast my wife would have.
What are your predictions as to when we'll see players from the injury list play in the regular season?
Oh, gosh, that's tough. Daryl, I'll have a clear answer on this in the next few days, so stay tuned to my notebooks on 1075thefan.com. Who's hurt? Wilkins is hurt. Sounds like he's coming back soon. Ian Rappaport said a broken rib for Jonathan Williams, but doesn't expect it to be too bad.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? If I had a broken rib, I'd be in the hospital for a year.
Yeah, I'd be bed rest.
Oh my gosh. Campbell, when did he have the setback? It was probably 2 weeks ago now.
Close to 3 almost.
Yeah, I mean, his second setback. You know how they thought he was close to coming back?
Yeah.
Right before the Buffalo game. You're approaching 2 weeks on that. I think it is 2 weeks. So you'd like to think he'd get back soon. Tyquan Lewis got banged up in the Browns practices. He didn't play against the Browns. Same thing with Matthew Adams, I believe. Wouldn't expect anything too serious there. Sounds like Adam Vinatieri is close to returning. I don't think I'm missing anyone else. Nelson, he actually practiced on Thursday against the Browns, only did individual stuff, but again, I don't think it's anything too serious there. And Andrew Luck, flip a coin and let me know what it says, and we'll go with that.
From Anton, where's one lineman you'd keep as backup besides, who's one lineman, not where's, who's one lineman you'd keep as a backup besides Bame, Clark, and Haig? I personally liked Jake Eldrenkamp.
Yeah, I thought Jake's had a decent camp, but I don't think he looked great on Saturday. Probably Josh Andrews. And Joey, this is going to scare some people, and it's going to scare Chris Ballard. I'm only keeping 8 linemen on my 53-man roster look. And I need y'all to hear me out on it. I'm keeping 8 because you only dress 7 on game day. So I see no point in having 1 or 2 linemen, 2 or 3 linemen, I should say, on my inactive list week in and week out. It's just too. Put them on your practice squad. Chris Ballard has probably opened my eyes to using the practice squad a lot more than maybe Ryan Grigson did. So I keep 8. Have more versatile pieces elsewhere. If you have injuries, boom, you promote an Eldrenkamp or an Bame or Antonio Garcia once his suspension is over. Those sorts of things.
Stan Cow wants to know, who do you think are the most likely practice squad candidates?
Such a Stan Cow question. All right, you get 10. Phillip Walker, Krishawn Hogan. Does Marcus Johnson have practice squad eligibility?
I'm not sure.
We'll throw him on there. Hale Hinches. Him or Travis, I think, is a battle for that 4th spot. Keep a lineman or 2. There's 6. Defensive lineman, does Karan Reed have eligibility? Linebacker, Sky Moore, Ahmad Thomas. Corner, Marvell Tell. Safety, Roland Milligan. There's 10.
10. Nice. Right off the top.
Can't believe I just did that.
Off the top. From Laura. Ben Banigou had buzz in the spring, but seems to have had a fairly quiet camp. What role do you see him playing this year?
Great question. Great question there, Laura. Laura's had a couple good ones here in the last few weeks. Ben Banigou right now is ascending. He was descending a few weeks ago. He is ascending right now. The Jabal Sheard injury, I think, will be big to really determine his role. I think on third downs, the Colts will still go with Justin Houston, Kamoko Turi as your ends. So I'm not sure where Banigou fits. He's not going to play on the early downs if Jabal Sheard is healthy, and Al-Qadim Muhammad is still above him. So it's to be determined. I think Banigou has a chance to sneak onto the field, but as of right now, I think he might be that next man up on the pass rush sort of IndyCar package.
Joshua Sutton asks, where did you see improvement in the Browns game from the previous week? What areas are still lacking?
Well, the O-line and the run game are still lacking. You know the starting running backs, Joey? Nyheim Hines in week 1. 6 carries, 1 yard. That's terrible. Marlon Mack, you're starting running back week 2. 6 carries, 10 yards. That's pretty terrible as well. That's awful. 12 carries for 11 yards out of your 2 starting running backs the first 2 weeks of the preseason.
Some Steven Jackson numbers. Throwback. Rams.
What a name. You have the dreads coming out of the helmet.
Uh-huh.
Oregon State, maybe, for Steven Jackson. You're always good with colleges.
Yes, I think that's correct. He's a Beaver.
I'll never forget when T.J. Hushmanzada dropped the ball short of the end zone against Notre Dame in the Fiesta Bowl and Tyrone Willingham. That's when I thought challenges should have happened. He dropped, he's kind of running, he's going to score, drops it short.
Right before the goal line?
Yeah. I'm not still bitter about it or anything. That's bad, Joey. And, we can talk about, it's a preseason, who cares? Well, the other team's resting people, too. You can't sit here and be like, just because things aren't going well, you totally ignore them. The Colts have started 1-9 in the regular season over the last 5 years. We going to keep on ignoring what the starters do in the regular in the preseason? Do we want to keep on going down that road? You have to put some stock into it. What the hell is the question about?
It was about where they were improving and where they're lacking.
Improving pass rush, I think, has got better. Jacoby Brissett certainly was better in that third, really on that third drive. That's probably about it. Garrett Gilbert still moved up and down the field too much, man.
Yeah. From Tom, how many players that get cut from the Colts do you think could get claimed by other teams this year?
Yeah, that's a popular question. Over under at 1.5, maybe 2.5.
Yeah, that sounds right.
I mean, it's just hard. It's you can have a deep football team, and it's still are any of those players suitable for other fit? I mean, they have to have an ideal fit elsewhere. And, yeah, I'll set the over at 2.5, and I'll go under. I'll say 2.
This is from @SmoothSmith. He says, I swear I'm not that guy, but what happens if Luck gets hurt again in the middle of the season and misses the rest of the regular season and the playoffs? Wouldn't you have to consider drafting a QB fairly high at that point?
There's always one. Always one bad apple.
And my guy Colin Cowherd was talking about this at the end of last week.
Was he? Isn't Cowherd a big Luck guy?
He is, but he was just saying that guys like him and Wentz, it's getting to the point where get another injury or two, you got to start thinking about it. So, I don't know.
You know what? I don't think it's the dumbest question in the world. Think about it. I like that phrase. Think about it. Yeah. If I'm Chris Bauer, general manager, and I know Chris Bauer does this on a daily basis, I'd be asking my staff gobs of questions. I naturally ask people gobs of questions. I'm like my 3-year-old nephew, soon to be 3-year-old nephew. Why? I would have asked a question about Adam Vinatieri before re-signing him last year. Let's get everybody in a room. I want opinions. Titles are thrown out the door. That's what Chris Bauer always says. Talk to me. He's 46 years old. Did you see the injury in the Buffalo game? Does that impact how much money that we give them? Is there a great undrafted free agent class this year with kickers? Let's throw everything on the wall and make sure we're making the exact decision that we want to make. That's the same thing I do with Andrew Luck. If Andrew Luck had a devastating injury or another injury here in the 2019 regular season, I would have to sit there and say, do you draft a quarterback early? I believe was the phrase that our questioner used there. I think that's fair. Draft a, especially if Jacoby Brissett's gone, you need a backup.
True.
Spend a third-round pick. Have Frank Reich, the quarterback guru, develop a young guy, and then you feel good about your backup, and maybe you got a Kirk Cousins here in a couple years.
Jaden Allen Parker is wondering, how has Derek Kindred looked in camp so far, and do you think the Colts carry 4 tight ends?
Yes, on 4 tight ends, for sure. I shouldn't say for sure. Yes, on 4 tight ends. Derek Kindred, I think he makes a 53-man roster right now over Matthias Farley. That might surprise some people, but for those of you that weren't watching the fourth quarter, the third quarter of the preseason game Saturday, I don't blame you, but I was, and Matthias Farley got in the game after Derek Kindred, after Roland Milligan.
Kind of saw that last year with John Simon.
Saw it a little bit, not that drastic, not that.
But he was still
drastic.
playing in the fourth quarter, which was odd.
Yeah, what was it last year?
I remember the Baltimore Ravens game, Monday Night Football.
Yeah.
He was still playing late into that game.
Yeah. And that's always, and you are right, Joey, that is a telling sign. That's why I get paid to do this, so I pay attention in general, but I really pay attention. Like, when every defensive and offensive series starts at late in the game, I'm taking roll call. Who's out there? Why are you still playing? Mm-hmm. And Matthias Farley playing in the fourth quarter, to me, is not a great sign. Chris Ballard loves him. So I still think there's a chance he makes a team, but if you're going off that playing time, he was the 7th safety to get on the field. Yeah. Hooker and Gether start. Kari Willis, George Odom come in, and then Milligan and Kindred.
Daryl Ingram asks, who is likely the biggest name cut from the roster, and why is Tyquan Lewis not play on Saturday?
Yeah, I mentioned kind of banged up earlier for Lewis in that Browns joint practices. Biggest name cut? Is it Farley? Is it Zach Pascal? Like, I cannot see a John Simon. I can't. Jabal Shear, to me, makes this team. I still have this one person on Twitter. I almost said idiot, but I shouldn't say idiot. I still have this one person that asked me about cutting Jack Doyle. I'm like, what? No, he doesn't make that much money. Like, and he's so
What's their
reliable.
reasoning?
Injuries, and Hale Henchus is younger and cheaper, and Ross Travis scored a touchdown on Saturday, and Mo Alley Cox and Eric Ebron. Like, okay, there's some evidence, but Jack Doyle, like, Andrew Luck might have a hurt ankle a lot longer if Jack Doyle's cut.
True.
I can't see anyone, Joey, of significant note that will be cut.
All right, this is from Tyler. If Mo emerges into Jack Doyle 2.0, would you rather re-sign Jack or Ebron? I understand from an athletic standpoint, Ebron is unique, but wouldn't you want to have 2 tight ends that can both block and catch? That way scheming would be a lot more challenging for the opposing defense.
I will say Jalen Collins will be cut.
Oh.
In my opinion.
Big
so
name.
I guess that is a big name. Okay, this is the Ebron Doyle free agent debate.
Yep.
We're gonna debate this a lot come early 2020. It's a great question. I need to see Mo Alley Cox. I need to see Ross Travis be healthy this season and what their ceilings are. I think I said it before. Does Jack Doyle look in the mirror, Joey, and say, undrafted free agent, I believe this is his 7th NFL season. This has been a pretty good run. I might take a hometown discount for 2 years, and I got 2 young boys and kind of ride off into the sunset.
Yeah.
Per se. That might be totally unfair to Jack. Maybe he wants to cash in, and deservedly so. He's had an unbelievable NFL career for a guy that was undrafted. But I guess that's something to look into. I tend to think, whereas I think Eric Ebron will be like,
oh, yeah.
Yeah. What, how many commas are in there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's add another.
Uh-huh. So, and I do think you are onto something in that the versatility of a Mo Alley Cox being a blocker is very enticing to Frank Reich. At the same time, it's very enticing to have a guy that is Mr. Red Zone, as Rick Venturi alluded to when Eric Ebron scored the other night. So, but I would say the bigger situations for me are dependent on what do you get out of Mo Alley Cox and Ross Travis this year.
From Andrew, what has contributed to the lack of running success so far in the preseason, and do you see it carrying over into the regular season?
Yeah, I've kind of already touched on that. For now, I'm going to hold off on making an exact, will it carry over into the regular season? I think Saturday is important. Potentially, Quentin Nelson could play Saturday. So that means your starters, I didn't see any injuries from any of those frontline guys. They could get a decent amount of run in their Saturday against the Bears, and I would like to see that out of that group, because what we saw with the run game last year, Joey, was feast or famine. I've mentioned that stat before. Marlon Mack had 5 games over 100 yards. He also had 6 games of less than 30 yards. It was very feast or famine. They need more consistency in that, so I'm eager to watch Saturday.
From Tanner, with Jacoby Brissett in great form, do you foresee a trade before the regular season ends? If so, what teams offer for the talented QB?
No, Tanner, no trades of Jacoby Brissett. He will be a Colt through the 2019 regular season.
Ballard season is feeling good about Deion Kane.
Is that SZN?
Oh, yeah. They want to know, is Deion Kane the wide receiver 3 now?
He's moving. He is moving up that depth chart. Wide receiver 3, technically you can't say that because they need a slot. And the slot would be Chester Rogers, but I would say Zach Pascal, I guess, was your wide receiver 3 non-slot division on Saturday. Joey, if I'm making a depth chart, again, put your slots into a group. So leave Chester Rogers and Paris Campbell on their own. T.Y. Hilton, Devin Funchess, Deion Kane, then Zach Pascal. That's how I would operate. And I put Krishawn Hogan behind them.
This is the last one that I got, and I think it's a pretty solid one to end on my end. From Michael Johnson, who has the better chance of making the 53-man roster between Hale Hinchis and Ross Travis?
Michael Johnson was such a good sprinter. Those gold shoes.
Yep. Didn't he get in trouble, though?
Which sprinter hasn't gotten in trouble?
That's true.
I feel like his wasn't as big as maybe the others. I love the Olympics. I can't wait for next year, Tokyo. All right, Hale Hinchis or Ross Travis?
Yep.
This is a great debate. And it's a great debate because what does Frank Reich want? It's almost Chris Bauer going to Frank Reich and saying, all right, your 4th tight end, talk to me. What skill set do you want? You want high ceiling? You want big body? You want the better receiver? There's Ross Travis. You want high floor, consistent run blocker? There's Hale Hinchis. I think I'd go Travis over Hinchis, but I need to see Ross do it again next week.
Yeah.
But I thought Saturday was and I mean, Hale Hinchis was good on Saturday. Hale Hinchis is your last hope, I think, for an undrafted free agent. I don't see anybody, unless Adam Vinatieri's knee injury becomes Andrew Luck's calf injury.
He could be more of that Jack Doyle 2.0, right?
He could.
Hinchis?
So, yeah, I mean, that's a good person to throw in there in terms of your future.
Yeah.
You know, a year on the practice squad for Hale Hinchis.
Then he's ready to roll.
Yeah.
You got any more?
The guy that asked the Luck draft question is getting torched on Twitter.
Take it easy. Come on.
Yeah. The minions are out. Okay, Robert asked a question that I think we should have mentioned earlier. Do you think we can afford to have Luck miss week 1 with Derwin James out and possibly Melvin Gordon out? Dude, have you seen the Chargers injury report?
Not good for them.
Yeah, not good for them at all. I mean, Derwin James is out, 3 to 4 months?
Yeah.
Keenan Allen is banged up.
Uh-huh.
Russell Okung has got his own situation.
No,
Melvin Gordon. That game is becoming a lot more winnable in my eyes.
It just feels like classic Chargers, though, you know? Anytime that they're supposed to be top dogs, something happens.
And then they still beat the Colts. You know, like Brandon Oliver will be their running back and have 10 catches out of the backfield. That is an interesting one that I don't think the Colts should. I don't know. I don't think you can look at it as let's rest Luck because the Chargers are really beat up. Tom, I already covered that one about the training camp schedule. Okay, that's it. Sam is confusing me with this question. The local broadcast of the game named the Colts' successful 2-point conversion the special teams play of the game is going for 2 special teams. That's interesting. I guess I've never really looked at it like that. I guess it is special teams. It's not a down. I mean, it's not like
Yeah.
You aren't using special teams members like kickers. But
That would be interesting, is if they had to go for it for 2 and everything, but you had to use your special teams players.
oh my gosh, you probably wouldn't have Adam Vinatieri on your team.
That would be, that would spike the interest maybe a little bit.
Boy.
It could be bad. It could add comedy.
And in full circle, now we're talking about the XFL rules. That sounds like an XFL rule
True.
to me. That's good.
True.
All right, man. That was a fun podcast. We'll probably come at you early next week to recap the Bears game, preview the final roster cuts that are coming a week from Saturday. Again, I will tease the 1075thefan.com article that just posted on the 53-man roster projection with 5 practices left, 2 preseason games remaining. Time is ticking. And then Beers and Bourbon with Bowen. Do we have a page up on the site, Joey, on that?
Should be by the
soon?
end of the day or tomorrow.
Cool. So some details there. If you have any questions, tweet at Joey, tweet at me. We'd be happy to answer them. It'll be fun. It'll be kind of a live podcast, and we'll have prizes to give away. And we really enjoyed the first one, and just getting to talk to people, putting faces with names, and just hanging out and having a beer or two and talking Colts football. So that will be, again, next Wednesday, 6:30, St. Joseph Brewery, downtown in the Mass Ave, Lockerbie area. Cool?
Yeah, let's do it.
Have a great bachelor party, man.
All right.
It'll be fun. Be safe. God, now I sound like your dad.
Hopefully I'll be back next week.
Yeah.
In one piece.
You will. He's Joey Monero. I'm Kevin Bowen. Everyone have a great week, and thank you for listening to another edition of Kevin's Corner. This has been Kevin Bowen. Thank you for listening to another edition of Kevin's Corner. If you haven't already, subscribe on iTunes or Stitcher for the best Colts and Pacers coverage.